A Jedi's lightsaber is far more than a simple weapon. It is the culmination of a journey, a bond between the Force and its wielder, and a reflection of the Jedi's very soul. Each kyber crystal tuned through meditation and attunement carries with it the essence of the Jedi who has claimed it. When that Jedi dies, their lightsaber does not simply become scrap metal, it becomes a relic, a lingering echo of the person who once carried it. When Qui-Gon Jinn was struck down by Darth Maul on Naboo, his death was a pivotal moment in galactic history. It marked the resurgence of the Sith, set Anakin Skywalker on his tragic path, and forced Obi-Wan Kenobi to step into the role of a Jedi Knight and a mentor. But as Qui-Gon's body was burned on Naboo's funeral pyre, one question now lingers. What happened to Qui-Gon Jinn's lightsaber? Unlike Anakin's weapon, which was passed through generations as a symbol of hope and despair, Qui-Gon's lightsaber simply vanishes from the narrative. But across both continuities, there are fascinating clues and even deeper symbolic truths that give us a sense of the weapon's ultimate fate. Greetings again, lore junkies, and welcome back to the archives. Before we document the journey of Qui-Gon Jinn's lightsaber after his death, we have had a terrible vision in the Force. Many who use our archives are not yet subscribed, so if you've been enjoying the daily holocron uploads, reach out and crush the subscribe button. It is your destiny. To understand the fate of Qui-Gon's weapon, we first need to understand what makes a lightsaber so significant in the first place. At the heart of every lightsaber lies the kyber crystal. These are not simple inert stones, they are living, resonant conduits of the Force. When a Jedi initiate first constructs their lightsaber, they undergo a process known as the Gathering. Younglings journey to Ilum or other kyber-rich worlds to claim a crystal for themselves, guided only by the Force itself. Once bonded, the crystal becomes attuned to the Jedi's unique signature in the Force, resonating with their own inner self and their own identity. That's why a crystal can change color when bonded with a Jedi, and why a Sith's corruption of one can turn it crimson, making it bleed. Luke Skywalker himself explained this bond, and he reflected on it when wielding Anakin's blue lightsaber. Luke admitted it always felt good and proper in his hand, but it was never truly his. Only when Luke built his own lightsaber did he feel whole, because a saber is not just a tool, it is an extension of the self. This truth tells us something profound. When another Jedi wields a fallen comrade's lightsaber, they are not merely borrowing a weapon, they are carrying a piece of the Jedi's essence with them. The blade still whispers of its former master, and in the case of Qui-Gon Jinn's lightsaber, that resonance would play a crucial role in Obi-Wan's journey moving forward. In Legends continuity, the story of Qui-Gon's lightsaber does not end on Naboo. After the duel with Maul, Obi-Wan Kenobi would take up his master's weapon, and remarkably, he continued to wield it for several years. The novel Rogue Planet, set roughly 2 years after the Phantom Menace, explicitly shows Obi-Wan using Qui-Gon Jinn's green-bladed lightsaber. This is an incredible detail. The Jedi tradition generally encouraged the construction of one's own weapon after knighthood, especially if the Padawan has lost their weapon prior. But for Obi-Wan, to carry Qui-Gon's lightsaber for years tells us how deeply connected he remained to his fallen master, how much he still relied on him, how even after his physical death, Obi-Wan always thought of Qui-Gon as his greatest teacher. On one hand, this choice may be seen as practical. Obi-Wan had only now just become a Jedi Knight, and perhaps did not immediately wish to construct a brand new lightsaber while traveling and training with a young Anakin. But the emotional resonance is undeniable. Obi-Wan didn't wield this lightsaber for weeks, he used it for years. By using Qui-Gon Jinn's lightsaber, Obi-Wan was keeping his master's presence close, guided still by the wisdom of his master even in death. This continuity also hints at Obi-Wan's struggle with his own identity. For a time, he was more an extension of Qui-Gon than even his own man, clinging to the lightsaber as a physical reminder of the master that he both loved, and in many ways, that he grew to resent. Eventually, Obi-Wan grew into his own. He constructed his second blue lightsaber, signaling his maturity as a Jedi Guardian, more pragmatic and orthodox than his maverick master. After this point, unfortunately Qui-Gon Jinn's lightsaber disappears from any historical record that we can find. We don't know if it was dismantled, recycled, or hidden away. But the fact that Obi-Wan carried it for years shows us how much he relied on Qui-Gon's influence during his formative years of his own Jedi knighthood. But Qui-Gon's lightsaber also symbolizes something deeper. Obi-Wan's conflicted relationship with his master. While he clearly loved and admired Qui-Gon, there was also tension between them. Qui-Gon often disregarded the High Council, while Obi-Wan was far more orthodox. Most significantly, Qui-Gon's dying wish was to have Obi-Wan train Anakin. This placed an enormous burden on him. Obi-Wan honored the request, but it was not his choice. For years, Obi-Wan wrestled with the consequences of that vow, and when Anakin eventually fell to the dark side, that promise became the root of Obi-Wan's greatest pain. Carrying Qui-Gon Jinn's lightsaber after his death reflects this tension. On one level, it was a gesture of loyalty and love, keeping his master close. On another, it may have represented the heavy weight of expectation that Qui-Gon now placed on him. The blade was both comfort and chain, a reminder of the vow that would eventually shatter Obi-Wan's life. This is why in later years, when Qui-Gon's spirit communed with Obi-Wan on Tatooine, there was always a lingering sense that Obi-Wan never fully forgave him. And perhaps that is why, in the end, Obi-Wan abandoned Qui-Gon's lightsaber to truly embrace his own identity and become his own Jedi. To do that, he had to set aside and to build his own. In canon, Qui-Gon's lightsaber takes on a different fate. The High Republic novels and comics have introduced the Memorial Arch, located in the lower levels of the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. The arch is not built out of stone, it is constructed of kyber crystals, each one taken from the saber of a fallen Jedi who is joined with the Force. When a Jedi dies, their kyber crystal is often removed from their weapon and fused into this arch. This creates a living monument, a structure that resonates with the voices of countless Jedi who have come before, immortalized in the Force. The other parts of the saber, its metal hilt and focusing components, are likely recycled for use by younglings in the construction of their own lightsabers. If this tradition was still active by the time of Qui-Gon's death, then it is very likely that his green kyber crystal now rests within that very arch, glowing alongside those of thousands of others. This would mean Qui-Gon is not remembered through his weapon in battle, but through his eternal presence in the temple itself. This answer strips away some of the intimacy of Obi-Wan carrying the lightsaber for years though, but it does reinforce the Jedi's philosophy of community. A lightsaber in this view is not meant to be a relic of attachment, but rather a contribution to the living history of the Order. But many don't believe this. Among fans, there is a popular theory that Obi-Wan may have secretly kept Qui-Gon's lightsaber, or at least its crystal, later passing it down to Luke Skywalker. This idea that Luke Skywalker's green lightsaber in Return of the Jedi is powered by Qui-Gon's crystal is a symbolic inheritance, linking master to master across several generations. It's a beautiful idea. Qui-Gon was the Jedi who discovered Anakin and believed in his potential. How fitting then, if his crystal should one day empower the blade of Anakin's own son, eventually having its own part in redeeming Vader. But this theory does not hold up in either continuity. In the EU, Luke constructs his green saber on Tatooine with guidance from Obi-Wan's journals. In Legends and Shadow of the Empire, it makes it explicit. Luke creates a synthetic crystal, using techniques once employed by the Sith. This is because Palpatine's purges have made natural crystals extremely rare. He's destroyed a lot of Ilum and other locations that used to be rich in kyber, not wanting the next generation of Jedi to have any access to the kyber. Still though, this fan theory persists because it captures something very symbolic. The idea that lightsabers are vessels of legacy, passing through generations, carrying whispers of those who have come before. So what became of Qui-Gon Jinn's lightsaber? In Legends, it lived on through Obi-Wan, a weapon carried not just out of necessity, but out of loyalty and out of grief. A weapon that took Obi-Wan Kenobi 2 years to eventually put away and let rest, showing just how impactful Qui-Gon Jinn really was on Obi-Wan. The lightsaber symbolized the bond between master and apprentice, the heavy weight of Qui-Gon's final wish. In other continuities, it likely joined the Kyber Memorial Arch in the Jedi Temple, a glowing testament of Qui-Gon's eternal place within the Jedi. And in fan imagination, it may have reached Luke Skywalker himself, carried across time as a secret inheritance. But no matter the version, Qui-Gon's lightsaber embodies a truth central to Star Wars. These weapons are not just tools of war, they are living extensions of the Force. They are conduits of memory and essence, and when a Jedi passes, their saber remains behind, not empty, but echoing with their presence. And so, even if the physical fate of Qui-Gon's lightsaber remains unclear, its meaning continues to resonate. Through Obi-Wan, through the Jedi Temple, and through the legends told by fans, the lightsaber whispers the legacy of a Jedi who first believed in the Chosen One. But now, my friends and fellow lore junkies, what is your favorite explanation for what happens to Qui-Gon Jinn's lightsaber after his death in The Phantom Menace? I personally really love the idea of Obi-Wan carrying it with him for several years, eventually growing into his own man and constructing his second weapon that we see him wield in Attack of the Clones. Qui-Gon Jinn's relationship with Anakin is often highlighted in the lore, but I feel like his relationship with Obi-Wan is just as important. The fact that the two of them butted heads far more often than you may think, and how the two didn't exactly see eye to eye, but also how Qui-Gon Jinn, while being the perfect Jedi Master for Anakin, was also the perfect Jedi Master for Obi-Wan Kenobi. As always guys, may the Force be with you, and I'll catch you in the next holocron.